All right. Wonderful. Well, welcome everyone to Storytime and Wine. I am your co-host, Marjorie Phoenix, and along with my other co-host, Kevin McLemore, and Ray Porch, who isn't here at the moment, but he will be showing up shortly. We'd like to welcome you all to our discussion on authentic allyships and powerful alliances. We especially want to welcome all of you that are our first time attendees to Storytime and Wine, just to give you a little backdrop about how all of this was started. Storytime and Wine was started last year, just around the time that George Floyd was murdered. And we wanted to create this safe space where people could come and just talk about what they were feeling, and just talk through their emotions, and then talk through some of the social issues that the Black community was facing and our country as a whole. Um, I've always lived by the phrase, be the change you want to see in the world. So for me, that begins with a generative conversation. So I want you all to envision yourselves at a cocktail party, with very interesting people having interesting conversations about the things that are important to you, the things that matter to you and affect your communities. Um, I always say that it's a room filled with people that are thought-provoking, curious, and that are social disruptors. So I don't know if you've ever heard that saying that if you're the smartest person in your circle, then you need to be in a new circle. So I always want to be in a room with people that are smarter than me, so that through those conversations, I leave feeling more inspired and motivated and a little bit smarter. So I hope that that is what you all will leave with here today, feeling a little bit more inspired and motivated and a little bit smarter. Um, Kevin, Ray, and I, in our mission in our company that we're starting, we have incorporated a philanthropy arm where we want to be able to give back to our community, and we want to give others a way to do that as well. So, of course, with this being story time and wine, we want to feature wines. Well, we're featuring wines from One Hope, which is out of Napa Valley. It's a social enterprise winery where every bottle has a built-in give back to a specific cause, as well as additional funding for charities that support clean water, education, hunger, and the environment. So, our choice this month for the charity that we're going to be supporting is actually the home of the Little Wanderers out of Boston, Massachusetts. They provide continuum care for families and children and young adults in the form of individual, group, family therapy, um, psychological and neuropsychological testing, child and family skill development, and educational preparation, just to name a few. So they are considered to be the leaders in the field of child welfare, and we are happy to be supporting them this month. We're going to go ahead and add their link to their website in the chat. So if you guys want to go ahead and check them out, but we'll also be adding our individual links, where you all can go and purchase some of this award-winning wine to support the cause. So what I'm drinking tonight is actually the One Hope Chardonnay. This is the Canara Chardonnay, and the tasting profile on it is pineapple cake, preserved lemons, and butterscotch. And it tastes just like it. It's really, really yummy. So, if that sounds delicious to you, please go over and get a couple bottles of that in support of the home of the Little Wanderers. So let's get into our conversation here tonight, because that's what you all are here for as well. For the past couple of weeks, we've been, Kevin, Ray, and I've been hosting some conversations on Clubhouse and here on Zoom, around implicit bias. And then specifically, I've been talking about the recent attacks against the Asian communities. What we've seen is that the Asian community and the Black leaders in the San Francisco area, they had started to come together to create this coalition to sort of fight racism. Um, so, we started asking, so what if there's a coalition, if there's an alliance, what does that really look like, right? And when we did have one of the conversations in Clubhouse, it was interesting because we know that there has been there's a history between the Asian and the Black communities, right? We know all of that. And then we've even had some people ask, well, why would we even want to have an alliance with a group that has been considered to be just as racist towards us as white people? Um, so we really wanted to dive deep into that because, we started looking at, well, what does an authentic allyship really look like? Because we know that allyship can show up in many different forms. It can be performative in nature. There's a lot of people who are self-proclaimed allies. They're doing a lot of talking, but their behavior is showing something totally different. Um, so we really want to unpack that today and see, get some response from you guys about that and also look at what a powerful alliance would be as well and see what ideas we could come up with. This is not just inclusive to the Asian community because we believe this is a conversation that we really need to look through intersectional lens as well. So we really want to think about all communities and how we all are coming together, to fight against racism. So I'm going to start the room off with these two questions, right? How do you define allyship and what does it mean to you? And then I think a little bit later, we can talk about powerful alliances and how some of those can be formed. So we thought that we would do things a little bit different tonight. We're gonna give you guys an opportunity to mingle and get to know each other, and put you in some breakout rooms for about 10 minutes, where you'll be able to sort of share and then come back with some of your thoughts and feedback. So what we do is, I think we're gonna do like 3 people in a room. When you get in the room, what I would like for you to do is share something interesting about yourself. Um, Share what you might be drinking tonight, if you are, and then answer those 2 questions. How do you define allyship and what does it mean to you? I think if everyone has about 3 minutes to share, that should be enough time to be done. And then we'll come back and get the conversation going. But before we do that, I'm going to figure out with how many people we have in the room now, how many breakout rooms we can get going. I'm going to have Kevin, if you don't mind, just chiming in a little bit before we break everybody out.
All right, all right. Well, I just want to let you guys know that this space is a safe place, and whatever is on your heart, it's okay to go ahead and let it out. In the event that there's a conversation where you're healing, I'll remind you this is a safe place, and please, allow each person to speak, express themselves fully. And like a small sip of wine, as the wine falls on the back of the palate of your tongue through your throat, taking the conversation that same way. Acknowledge that the conversation that you are hearing is that person's truth. Understand without debating what you just acknowledged. And before you speak, listen, inhale, exhale, and speak from your heart, not from the head. All right,
Like
it's all yours.
like that. Okay, guys, this is the first time I'm doing these breakout rooms. I don't know where y'all are going to end up, but I hope you come back. Okay, so good luck. And I really want to put more than 3, but we got 2 people in each room. How can we do this? Try this.
You can put me anywhere.
Okay. Well, I'll see. I'm having Zoom do it. So here we go. And you should get your invites.
All right.
And they're back.
Slowly.
Slowly but surely.
There's Ray, our Boston friend.
Everyone.
Yes, there's Ray. Ray, that's Leslie.
Yeah.
She's in Boston too.
Hey,
Terrific. Hi, Leslie. How are you?
good. Nice to meet you.
Oh, great to meet you too. Great to
How you
meet
doing, Raymond?
you. Hey, brother Kevin, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. Do we look alike tonight?
Ah, good man. Good man.
I'm off camera because I was trying to connect.
Hi, Dad.
All right. Well, we had a great breakout room. I don't know if
I
I guess
can't wait to hear all about it. It says everybody back, no child left behind. We want to make sure. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry I cut y'all off. Listen, I told y'all 3 minutes each. So
before we go on, I do want to say that if we have anyone that has any direct connection with the tragedy that happened in the last 48 hours in Georgia, I want to first and speak for my team and my family, RMK Productions, that we send our condolences. The other thing is that I've contacted Gold House, which is the organization that is trying to create an alliance to lend my support. I actually registered my support, and if there's anyone that's connected to this organization, we stand behind you. And with that said, I'll go ahead and return it back to Marjorie.
well, listen, I'm going to bounce it off to Ray because he missed an opportunity to greet the crowd and just share a little bit with everyone, and then we'll go ahead and open it up and let you guys start sharing with us how you answer that question. I sort of sent them away, Ray, and just asked them the question of how do you define allyship, what does it mean to you? So yeah, so why don't you talk a little bit to the group.
Yeah. Well. First of all, I want to apologize. I'm a little late getting here, but I'm so happy to see everybody. This is obviously a very, very current event and topic that you guys have had a chance to kind of start exploring and talking about. But we've been having this conversation for a little while, and it is unfortunate some of the things that are playing out. And I'm a fan of humanity, so I'm not happy about loss of life or harm. I just had a conversation with some folks at Burlington School District, which has a population of about 36% that are Asian, and there are grave concerns about students coming back to school, and just different dynamics that are happening there as well. Um, but I think for us, it has to be a conversation that's steeped in humanity first and foremost, but some real kind of understanding of what it is that we hope for in allyship. Is it a reaction or is it a proactive build of what's going to have communities be stronger and more sustainable for equity and for what's best for all the people in a community? Or is it about quid pro quo? And I have to name that because that's an important element to consider. And I'm not placing judgment on it, but I also think it's just essential for us to speak about these dynamics in truth and in a transparent way. So I appreciate everybody being here. I'm excited to hear what came out of your conversations um, and to learn as much as I can about your thoughts and perspectives. So thank you, Marjorie, for letting me chime in.
Always great to hear your perspective on things, Raymond. So I don't know if you guys know how Zoom works, if you know how to raise your hand and all of that, or you can just do this. So either way. So who wants to go first and just sort of share, the answer to the question that was posed. Don't let me call y'all out.
Look, I was about to say the question that was posed was that how we viewed allyship.
Yes.
I'll take it then. In
you.
our group, I view allyship, and I wrote it down as a common forming alliances with those who have a common agenda and compassion for each other's cause. That is how I see allyship. So that's what I look for when I'm looking to form an allyship with someone or something. I look for a common agenda, and I look for that other person or thing to be empathetic or to be inclusive of my own cause or my own mission.
Okay.
So that is my answer. Thank you.
Who was in the group with you, Stacy?
I had Jeff and Elaine Sugar in my group. And I think it was strategic that you put us together, or maybe it could have been coincidental, but it was actually amazing that we were in that space together, and we formed somewhat of an allyship, I think, because we definitely want to connect outside of the platform.
Love it. All right. Well, Jeff, tell us a little bit about that, would you?
Did you say Jeff?
Yes, I did.
No, it was great because the other part was we all work with youth, right? And we all in various capacities, and we're thinking about how to equip our youth financially, social, emotionally, heading into the 21st century. So they're working on some projects that are going to be coming up that are going to be good for our youth, and they can speak to more about what they're doing. And what I talked about in terms of what I'm doing here in Boston with the kids I work with is equipping them with 21st century skills around entrepreneurship, starting businesses, doing research about what type of businesses they may be interested in doing and how it can affect or impact their community. So those are some of the things that we're working with our young people, 15 to 18, as we're coming through this pandemic and getting back started with in-person learning and having them on a day-to-day basis in our facilities. So that's some of the things that we're working on. But it was just like basically how we all aligned perfectly in terms of the work that we do and the work that we plan to do.
So how would you explain to the kids that you mentor and that you guide, and help them understand allyship and what that would look like? What would you tell them?
I would say, as Stacy brought out, things that they have in common, a common cause, and something that they feel passionate about, and just sharing. Particularly, my population is predominantly African American, so Black youth, right? And so the things being able to partner or galvanize with people that share a lot of the things that they're dealing with every day, as we know and have seen throughout this past year. But for our history, being in America, has been hundreds and hundreds of years. So being able to align with people that have that same passion to be able to deal with that and combat it unconditionally, not with kind of stipulations like I'm going to jump on this cause because it's the hot thing, it's a hot topic, it's the hashtag of the day, but rather than understanding the depths of what that entails on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. You said Elaine Sugar was also in that group. Elaine, you want to share with us?
Absolutely. So first I'll start with a confession that I have a deadline that I'm supposed to be working on. And when Kevin reminded me of this, I said, okay, I'll be there, but I am going to be multitasking. And I get into this breakout room and Stacy starts talking, and I can't even concentrate on anything but what she is saying. I'm like, yes. So
Yes.
when I don't make my deadlines, y'all see Jeff and Stacy, and we will blame them. But no, no, it was very exciting and awesome, and I definitely will be reaching out to both of them. As far as allies go, I do believe that sometimes we can pencil people into a hole when they agree to be our ally. Whoever you invite to be your ally, you need to believe that at that person's core, they share your vision about that particular thing. It doesn't have to be everything in life, but what they've agreed to join forces with you on, you need to see the same endpoint. They don't have to see the same path to getting there as you. And you might have benefit from that because they may be able to offer you something different or a different approach. As long as we can agree on the end goal and you agree to be my ally. Now, my ally may be cheering me on today, but it may be pulling me aside tomorrow and say, hey, wait, we talked about this, and some of the actions you're taking or some of the ways you're handling this could be detrimental to what you're doing. So I don't necessarily think an ally is always a cheerleader. As long as that person is coming from a place of, I'm bringing this to you or supporting you in this way. Here's what I think. And it's always about that thing that we've agreed upon. I think that's the key to a good ally.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, I never thought about it that way before. Yeah, that shared vision and values too, you know? Yeah, that's important. All right. So, Kevin, who was in your group?
You're asking the guy with the bad memory. Um, Brittany and Mrs. Mobley.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, yes. It's funny that that we ended up in each other's room because the conversation was so much like-minded. I mean, especially I had a heavy heart from the last time we did this, but I'm going to let them speak first, and then I'll go through. I don't know how you did this, but you did a good job picking the
All
people.
right. Magic. Who wants to go first? I know Di said she was multitasking. So, Brittany, would you like to share? Or Di?
I
Dizina,
can
you
go. Yeah. Yep,
okay.
yep, yep. I'm I'm fully here, but I'm like Miss Sugar. I was like, it's either not being here or taking care of what I knew I needed to do at 12 o'clock today. So I'm here. And same thing. I had to sit down for a minute, take myself off camera and get in, and see Mr. Kevin's eyes as we were speaking. Um, but I came in with a bit of a heavy heart, so I didn't answer the question directly. Um, one of the things that I've been present to and just kind of hanging out on Clubhouse a little bit is, and what happened this evening was that there's so much passion and hurt and trauma and wanting to be heard amongst Black folk when it comes to issues of race, that um, we just have so much inside of ourselves that can hinder the conversation, because as soon as someone says something that isn't um, PC or isn't the group think, everyone loses their mind. And I was in a group and there were hundreds of people in there, and something happened, someone was on the stage and they said something that people didn't agree with, and everyone just went crazy. Like, people were talking over each other, and I was thinking about the conversation that was shared with us last time, the Asian group that had 5,000 people on and no one said a peep. And I just got off, and then the group shut down. So Kevin said maybe Clubhouse shut it down, or maybe the moderators did. But I just left feeling really sad. Like, when will we be able to unite in and of ourselves and allow people to have different opinions and find the core, find the lowest common denominator, so that we can stand on that and be united. But it just feels like we're so fractioned. And then we're talking about alliances with other people. And for me, an ally is an ally. Like, that person is not living my life. She's saying this piece of what you are talking about, I agree with. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, I don't know if they're going to go toe to toe with me. You get to blend back into the background of being a white woman, even though I know you're my sister when we're talking, and I know your heart is in it. At the end of the day, when they come and line up, I don't get to decide whether I'm in or out. So I have very mixed feelings about it. Like I said, I came in with a heavy heart, having watched that go down on Clubhouse. And, that's why I keep showing up to these spaces, because they're safe. We can be real. No one's getting shut down about anything. And I'm just always looking for, the smart people in a room. What say you? And how does that vibe with what I'm thinking about? I'm done.
Well,
My name is
no,
Daizina, and I am done speaking.
that's wisdom right there. That's wisdom. You just spoke some wisdom into the space. We appreciate you, Di.
Mm.
Yeah, that's why you guys put me in that room. I always talk about, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You guys just confirmed it.
So I don't know if Brittany is able to speak, but we'd love to hear her feedback. If not, Kevin, if you want to, just share with us a bit.
All right, then I'll go ahead and speak. Well, when Mrs. Mobley brought up the last Clubhouse, I mean, Raymond and Marjorie, you guys both know that my heart was extremely heavy. I shook my head afterwards because I didn't understand what was wrong with our people. Um, after sitting in a room and watching 5,000 Strong have a conversation and having things in place, I kind of looked at when we had this conversation of building alliances. It's the same way we are starting, our business together. I start with, why are we doing it? What's our purpose? And I think, it's like peeling back the layers of a fruit. In order to get to the meat of it, you've got to first create, um, some type of an emotional response to why take action. And that first layer that we peel back is, why are we in this situation? What's my purpose? What am I doing to make this better? And then after you get the first layer out, you look at all the other layers that's underneath it. And when I look at the fact that they're so organized, and the reason why um, they are in a better position than black and brown people is because of the different layers. You have a person that basically says, look, I'm going to lead this way, but having the conversation. I mean, I'm going to take the conversation I had with Tara earlier and steal a little bit from her. This is my R&D department, rip off and duplicate daily. When she said earlier that, we, it's emotions over intelligence. And a lot of times in that room, emotions got the better of intelligence. And what happens is most intelligent people, because they don't want to deal with conflict, especially when it's nonsense, they shut down and they quiet the room. You know, um, so I think that's the reason why our people are so separated. Is once we identify the true leader and we sit at the table with the leader, and you've got, I'm going to use this as a visual. The Last Supper, God sat down and he had all the disciples. I want you to think about building those alliances, even though there was a Judas among them, the disciples all were together to serve a common cause. And that's why I think that when we create alliances, we have to put our differences, our personal differences, aside for the greater good. So when I peel back the layers, I said, what do I have to do to our young people? We need to improve our education system. We need to put people in place, not in our local government, but people that in our communities that demand that we stop educating employees and start putting systems together where kids are graduating with a trade that they can make a difference. We've got to start upholding our women of all races and understand that without them, this planet would not exist. We need to get rid of the biases. no matter if it's based on race, sexual preference, your weight, size, your height. We have to debunk the caste system. So, what it means to me is collectively getting important people to understand what the why is and putting a purpose behind the why. And I'm Kevin, and I'm out.
Ooh, you said a mouthful there. I feel that they are weaponizing our differences and the way, our divisions. They're using that against us. They want to see us at each other's throats, whether it's everyone in the Black community, Blacks against the Asians, Hispanics against the Muslims. That's, that feeds in to all of that. And so I think a part of that too, Kevin, is we have to find a way, and Ray always talks about this, is about, being able to learn how to not always understand each other, but that doesn't mean we agree, right? But we have an understanding. And somewhere through that thread, we can find some commonality, something, one thing that we can get on together and work at. It doesn't have to be everything on the list, but it can be
Yep.
that one thing. And so if you have a group of people doing that, I mean, that just makes such a difference.
But
So I think that's the thing, to start there, to change people's mindsets about how this should be done or can be done. You know what I'm saying?
yep.
Let's just
And,
do
bel-
it.
and believe it or not, this whole thing that's going on, and I'm going to give Tara Todd because she painted this picture for me. It's like the Matrix. It's a military and strategic tactic to divide and conquer. They know that if we divide everyone and plan enough things that's going in different directions, it makes it easy for the people that are power to slowly eliminate the small groups until they're none. And that's the reason why the Asian community, as well as the intelligent Black community, understands once you eliminate the Black race and take away the power, okay, then you take the next one. That's the brown. The Asian is going to be a little tougher because they're better organized and they're funded. All right. And then you're going to go to the Jewish people until it's just them. So we've got to ignore the noise, and we've got to collectively come together and create those different layers that all the little soldiers are going out in order to band together, eliminate the distraction, and stay focused on the cause. Take our education, take economic wealth, build strong communities, support our own businesses, take back our economy, and create relationships that are positive, to whereas our young people have positive examples of where we came from, understanding our history, and creating history amongst themselves so they can move forward. And again, I'm Kevin, and I'm out.
So Miss Tara, he turned it over to you. Who was in? Were you in the group with Kevin?
This is actually a private conversation that we were having earlier today with regard to preparation for this group tonight. And so what I said was, yeah, when emotions are high, intelligence is low. And everything in the matrix is designed to divide us. So whether that's gender, sexual preference, color, race, religion, every single thing is designed to keep us divided. For me, the thought of allyship is a little problematic because I feel like when people want to create allies, then there's an expectation that that person also has your back. And for me, that's nothing that I ever do I want to be tit for tat. I want to do it because that's where my heart and soul lie, and that's what I believe is right. So yeah, it's not about me supporting an Asian, a Latina, a Black, nothing. It's about me understanding that we all come here without a clue of how to make it through the matrix. And we're programmed and conditioned so much to the point where we're just doing the best we can with what we have at any given moment. I've played into the matrix game. I've definitely been divisive and enjoyed that time. And I've elevated from that. I've grown a lot, I've learned a lot, I've healed a lot. And so now it's more for me about humanity and supporting all of us as a whole, as well as each of us individually. So I'm not really concerned with, the divisiveness, if you're Black, I'm standing with you, but if you're Asian, then I'm not. That's not it for me. If you're human and I have a soul and I know that we all came from one God and we're all fractals of that God, then I know that it doesn't matter what color you are, we are each other. We are a reflection of each other. And so I'm going to stand with you because that's what we're supposed to do. And I understand like not everybody is there. There's a lot of things in our history that have been hurtful for us, especially as African Americans, that come to mind. There's a lot of experiences that people individually have had, and that needs to be healed before they get to that place. So yeah, I get that, and I'm not criticizing how anyone else looks at it. I'm just saying for me, I try to step above that from a spiritual standpoint and just embrace every human as a whole, because we've all been through the muck of it. We've all been through the ringer. We've all had moments in our life that we were at our breaking point. And so I just think it's important for us to support each other on a humanity level versus doing it because someone is a certain color, race, or religion that we happen to align with. My name is Tara, and I'm complete.
It's all about humanity. At the end of the day, it's all about humanity. I always say, on the day if extraterrestrials ever come to this planet, they tell you they don't care, okay? What nationality you are, we better all come together, okay? So. But you're right, Tara. At the end of the day, that's what it is. So thank you so much for blessing us with that. Okay, so let me go to my good friend Kim. Kim, who was in the group with you, and we'll have you start off.
I was in the group with Tara Todd and Martha Musselman. And we each shared part of the dynamic of what it all is that we're trying to do with and want for the world. And my piece was about, I do, at one time, we all know that our world was mainly controlled and built by white men. And so, and then it was their decision when they start allowing others, even though we kept trying to say, hey, to be part of that. And so we have ingrained in the system, in all our structures, economic, educational, legal, etc. It was structured to benefit those who have the ideal ticket, I guess, the first class citizenship of being, having the characteristics of white, male, certain age, economic capital, having capital, etc. And so everybody who is not that is dealing with various subjugations and oppressions, okay? And of course, more than one, depending on class and race and culture and language and then, so overall, all the oppressions do need to see that it's all about trying to shift from a power over mentality that benefits the consciousness and the training and the culturation that works as what is considered the most, you know, male and white and that English speaking and blah blah blah. Um, so my thinking was that we need to consider how they're all interconnected, all the oppressions, and how each person can have that depending on where they are in their level of privilege or their level of subjugation, where they can speak of how to get their voice included and what needs to change. What do we need to adjust? How do we need to adjust our educational system to be more inclusive of people with different disabilities or abilities and people of, and it's always going to change given what's in that particular community. But how, you know, like our government, we don't have 50, you know, I know a lot of white guys think, oh, sexism is over. But there's no true representation of our population, and it's because of the barriers. And the same with the legal system, even in hiring system. People are trained with certain attitudes throughout our culture of, you know, white women are supposed to be weak and black women are supposed to be too strong and Asian women are supposed to be wanting to just please and blah, 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 you know, and then all you know, these groups are too emotional and the real intellect and the smartest one is supposed to be the white guy or the most worthy and heterosexual and etc. So I just feel like we can have representatives of everybody individually speaking for themselves and saying, this is where I need some adjustments. You know, I need the school rearranged in these kinds of ways. I need the workforce rearranged. I need different things rearranged so that it can be more inclusive. And this is going to take many generations, but the more we can get everybody's voice out there, the more we can create these changes. And as an ally, I think it's like seeing that I might not be an expert on all the issues related to race, since I'm in the privileged place of being white, but I can listen and I can try to and learn, and I can also use where I am subjugated to kind of help me say like, oh, okay. Oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I didn't think about how, you know, you have to worry about, is that phone call meaning someone's getting pulled over by the cops, you know, or whatever. I didn't. So there's so much I don't know about different areas. And I think we kind of like, I was just talking about the oppressions and then different people being representatives to help speak for it and saying, let's get rid of that power over that belongs to white male supremacy.
And can I just say, you know, Kim has been using her agency and her voice on social media, just challenging the minds and the hearts and the racism in on her Facebook feed. Um, you know, she has really like put herself out there and used her voice, and I've seen that and how she has started. I can see the responses from everyone on her page and how she's gotten the conversations going, right? She's got her own little Storytime and Wine going on Facebook in a way. and and I'm so, you know, I'm so proud of her for doing that and appreciate that. And you know, and I had to point that out, you know, that you know that's a form of allyship there. You know, she's willing to do that and to challenge and to even be challenged as well. So thank you for that, and you know, always being willing to show up in these spaces and learn more, you know, so we appreciate that. Now, who else did you say was in the room with you? You and Tara, and who else?
Martha.
Martha.
Hi.
Hey, Martha.
I was hoping you were going to skip over me.
Oh, no chance.
Um, Yeah, so this is my first meeting like this that I've ever attended, and I told my group I really I'm just here to listen and to learn. I've been doing a lot of reading around race, a lot of podcasts by different thought leaders. I'm also trying to do the body work, which is hard, like that, the internalized, I don't know, I'm just on this like explorative journey. And someone mentioned earlier that like I could be a part of this group right now, but then how I forget exactly how they said it, but in a certain situation, I like blend right back in because I'm white, right? Um, so yeah, so I'm just kind of like navigating a lot of things, and like I said, just here to listen and to learn. And I'm so great people that I met with. Both Kim and Tara were just so wonderful and had just beautiful ideas of what allyship looks like. And it's hard for me to speak to what that looks like. Um, I guess a lot of the definitions that were provided were, I was thinking like more complicated than you know what I mean. And it really is just like people coming together, like wholehearted, like daring greatly, just really trying to create change and change the things that have been wrong for so long. And a big part of that is recognizing what's wrong. And if you're not in a particular group, it is really hard to see those things, especially around race. It's our society like doesn't want to believe that this is happening. There are so many people that say, oh, like we already did that. We took care of that. And it's really sad. So it's just yeah, I don't, I think I'm rambling at this point, but I'm happy to be here, and thank you to everyone for all that you're sharing. So yeah.
No, no, thank you so much. We appreciate that. And for just being willing to say, I'm here to listen and to learn. And so we hope that you come back. Okay, great, great. All right, so I know there's one more group, Leslie, but I'm not sure who was in the group with you. So Leslie, I'm gonna have you kick off our last group and tell us who else was in the room with you.
Okay, great. So it was me, and then we had Kent and Grace in my
Oh,
group.
perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So we'll go in that order, but you go ahead and start first.
Okay. So yeah, it was great to meet some new people in the breakout. That was fun. And we each did talk about what allyship meant to us. And we were similarly aligned, where essentially, like, I'll share what I said, and I took notes because I always will forget otherwise. Um, for me, it's essentially a partnership, is how I look at it. So partnering with others who are marginalized, who of course are different from my point of view, and then determining how and where I may need to speak up through understanding their situation. And then we each kind of shared like our work environment, that sort of thing. Their work situation is more in alignment with each other than mine. I'm in kind of corporate America, but I do volunteer in the community. And so that's really valuable to me also, because I am dealing with people that are of a different group quite often. So to me, then it really is like in those smaller settings, being able to really listen and see where I need to speak up or be a voice, and just have compassion as well.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And I'm Leslie, and I'm out. To quote Kevin. I like that.
All right, Mr. Kent.
Hey, everybody. I'm also known as Swampy on Clubhouse. And I'm not sure who else. I want to first off thank Kevin for inviting me here. I'm just so glad to be talking about this tonight because I really felt a part of it in my heart, okay, versus my head. We've had some great groups. Today we were discussing the American Civil War, and we also were talking about last night bringing heaven on earth. And I put on the chat section a book by Eckhart Tolle called A New Earth. And we are discussing that. There's people of all different faiths and different beliefs. And I believe in alignment, in order to come together as a species, two things would be great to help us. The first one is to, like you mentioned earlier about the matrix, we are programmed, folks. And to change our way of programming, okay, to not determine what is good or evil, but to find out what is truth and what's perception, what is really there, because the truth will find its way. But good and evil, we will always fight and take one another's lives, unfortunately, throughout womankind's history. So if we can shift in that area, that's great. Point number two is the area of becoming present. I got hit by a 41-ton rock truck. I had 7 different surgeries. I did some deep, heavy thinking after I was on death's doorstep and coming back. And I found out that we cannot change our way of being, because this is the way the brain works. The brain always responds based upon what it's been programmed in the amygdala. Okay. So if our history is of a certain way, and I'll use the word racist because I'm a racist, I think to some degree we're all racist, then if I do not stop myself, take a breath, and step outside of myself and say, do I really want to keep the old ways of reoccurring? And at that point, and I'm a big fan of Dr. Wayne Dyer, shifting, okay, to love over judgment, okay, mercy over judgment. And the third area I'll tell you as well is, as long as we have this set up in our system with money, okay, I think we will continue to have problems. If we can shift somehow to move away from money and move into either education or energy or ideas, then I think that in itself promotes everybody's emphasis towards a new earth. So I think those are a couple structural things. And the people that have, I don't know if they're going to leave that, but in alignment, yeah, we shared a lot of things, education, costume design. It was great. And again, thanks for letting me be here. And I needed this. Again, thanks, Kevin, for inviting me and let me share in with this discussion. And with that, I'm complete.
Swampy, I want to say personally, thank you. You know, I love you, and you're a gift, and I hope you recognize that you're a gift to this planet, and I hope the planet embraces you and charges your gift and allows you to share. So, matter of fact, everyone, I really appreciate everyone for coming into the space tonight and being authentic and sharing. I mean, I am deeply touched tonight. And Swampy, thank you.
Yeah, I was
And let me
looking
say
for a
one more
mic
thing
drop.
real quick, just because this is important too. Under the Black Lives Matter, okay, when I grew up in the 60s, we had a very charismatic, a very great leader called Martin Luther King. And I am concerned, I'm hoping that we will have a voice from the African American community that can garner that same concept of Gandhi, okay, and peacefulness. I think that we would really be helped on that. But I want to share that with you all as well.
I'd love to see that too.
Can I just chime in?
Please do.
Thank you so much for sharing. But and being a great balance in my lived experience, I wasn't able to kind of appreciate that front row bird's eye view of that experience. I've only been able to kind of backwards map that learning in my lifetime around what Dr. King stood for and what he was trying to accomplish. I think it's important. I think it's important for us to be clear also, that from a generational perspective, right? Hurt and harm looks very different with generations of folks, and patience looks different, right? So I think that if you polled people, folks would be in agreement that folks would prefer, no matter what walk of life they come from, they would prefer to have peace come through the lens of understanding and dialogue, and that peace, the distinction being that peace being acculturated with action and not being symbolic peace, right? So I think what we have to acknowledge today is that we have generations of folks who want peace, right? But peace can be weaponized as well, right? And I think it's important to understand that if you don't have to know, then you don't build your muscle for knowing, right? And so what I mean by that is this: if you could live in the world in a way and things don't impact you the same as they impact other folks, then you become conditioned to continuing to live in the world that way and not really being able to appreciate the impact that other people are experiencing. That doesn't have to be intentional, but it is no less detrimental. And so when we talk a lot about what, in reference to white folks, like what you have to do is be conscientious in every interaction that you have and put it at the forefront of your thinking. That's exhausting. It's about as exhausting as it is for a person of color to have to code switch and assimilate in every aspect of their being and existence as well. So my point in that is this, Swampy. I appreciate your perspective and thinking about that element as it relates to what Dr. King stood for. The conditions were very different then, and so what I would just ask you to be thoughtful about, is really synthesizing and talking through with people that you have in your life around how the conditions are different, because that's the synthesizing the past with the present, with what's happening on the horizon. And I think we all have to have some capacity in doing that with some level of consistency to continue to build our awareness, and solutions become created as we go along, and not just relying on what happened before, or assuming what happens next, if any of that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that because we haven't seen, for some of us in our lifetime, we haven't seen a Martin Luther King or even a Malcolm X
I have.
or a Marcus Garvey. Well, okay,
I
in your
have.
lifetime, some of us. But and we look at the state of things, that is what we have to go on, right? So that's what we're thinking, that we need that kind of a voice again. And in some ways, you're right, Raymond. This time may call for a different type of leader, a different type of voice. You know, I'm afraid that we will be looking for something specific, and then when someone shows up, we ready to crucify them, or you know whatever. We're not going to pay attention to that because we're looking for that Martin Luther King, we're looking for that Martin X, Malcolm X. So um yeah, I get that. I get that.
Let me add on onto that, since I'm outside of Swampy, the only person on the other side of this that has experienced this. When Raymond says that, it's different. And I will say, and I came home and had this conversation tonight. It's not different. I actually wake up every single morning with watching um, what's going on, and I said I cannot believe that what I went through in the '60s and '70s is replaying almost identical. The only difference is that it's being videotaped. That's the only difference. Systematically, Black women and Black men had been raped, pillaged, houses burnt down. Um, I talk about the Arkansas 237 or 31 when they lynched free black people, free black persons, and left them hanging on the street, and they took Polaroids with them. The only difference is that we're not shocked by what's going on right now. We're shocked in the moment, and then our lives go back to normal because it doesn't affect us personally. So um, it's a replay in my mind, and I never thought that the conversations we're having or the things that we're witnessing are being repeated. And I'm sure that if you spoke to anyone else that grew up when in the day and age that I grew up, um, they would probably echo and feel the same way, and on both sides.
And Kevin, I want to say something else real quick. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, the home of the late great Muhammad Ali.
I knew
I saw what happened to him as a young person. He won a gold medal in boxing in Olympics. Then he came to Louisville and they would not even serve him to have a drink. So he took his gold medal and he threw it into the Ohio River. All right. And there was another man that came through. His name was Elvis Presley. And I was used to be a substitute teacher, and I gave my own version, and you could have heard a pin drop. So that in the 60s, like you're saying, how one was treated versus the other. Ali, we called him the Louisville Lip back in the day, but he walked the talk, you know what I'm saying? And he was mistreated and he overcame. And if you guys ever get a chance to come to Louisville, please visit the Ali Center downtown.
Cool. I don't know if you guys are familiar, and I heard this story today, but apparently when Malcolm X was shot and killed, one of his very close allies, as they put it, and friends was a Japanese woman, and she was there holding his head. Anybody know anything about that? Ever heard that? No? Okay. Well, let's Google it and see, find out.
Well, the one thing that you would realize, and my late fraternity brother John Lewis, when they stood on that bridge, if you look at the picture, there were multiple races standing there, hands in hand. So when we talk about allyship, this is more so about humanity, not about race. We have racial biases. We have caste systems. This whole thing is a fight for humanity. We need to save our planet. We need to save the people that are shepherds of this planet, and we need to grow better versions of ourselves through our children. And I'm Kevin, and I'm out again.
Kim, I will call on you, but I've got to let Grace share. She hasn't had an opportunity to share yet. And then we'll have you say a few words before we have to close out because it is 9:25. So Grace, please share with us, from your small breakout group.
Oh my goodness, I'm having a hard time with how difficult it is to follow like the wisdom of all of the people that have spoken, especially people that lived through eras that I didn't. But I can just go way back in the conversation to what we discussed. And I know early on when people were sharing their definitions of allyship, they were saying things about commonality and common goals. But I have to say, when I thought about it as ally in terms of being a person of privilege that is not in particular groups. So in that way, my job as an ally would be to listen to the voices of people in those groups and then take that message into my actions and into other spaces and places that they're not. Kim is my friend. That's why I'm here. And just like you said, on her social media, she's doing that. In her personal conversation, she's doing that. And we're working with a different script. This conversation that you all are having, that Black Americans are having, some white Americans are not even working from the same script. So my elders and people in my family they're looking at the world as if it's a post-racial society, and these problems, if they exist, are, you know, small, or they're, you know, only in some places, and they don't exist. So in that way, allyship, you know, it may be a partnership that we have a common goal, but it also may be that I recognize that this thing that is affecting this other group of people isn't affecting me. It's not something that I've experienced firsthand. So I have to listen to those groups of people and then take that information somewhere else where that conversation isn't being had. And then just to add to, Kevin asked in the comments if we can love our way out of racism. And I think we have to get to a common language first, because we have this tribalism, or as Tara put it, like a matrix. We have this idea that what makes other people different, like their different shirts that they're wearing, their different groups, whether it's race, religion, or, you know, gender, any other thing, makes them other. And so our even nationality, like all the people that are very like America first, it's, you want to insulate and protect your tribe. So therefore, don't give credence or listen to when other groups of people are being affected by something. But if you think that way, then your tribe is going to come up at some point. And it reminded me when someone was speaking about, it might be that they're looking at the Asian Americans, or they're looking at Black Americans, and, you know, taking down one group. It reminds me of the First They Came For poem that came out of the Nazi Germany in the 1930s. The first they came for this group of people, but I wasn't part of that group, so I didn't speak up, and so on and so forth. So if we're not listening to the groups of people and their experiences that don't mirror our own, and then taking that information to political spheres and our, you know, our actionable activism and our conversations with all the people in our lives, then it's going to end up being a global problem, because we all affect each other, and we're all constantly affecting each other, and then it will come up. And just to bring it back to the tragedy in Atlanta, when you all talked about divisions and people wanting us to be divided, I think if you look in any comment section on any news story, people are arguing what was the cause. Is this, you know, misogyny? Is it racism? Is it religion? Is it his, you know, upbringing? Is it any number of things? And it can be all of them. And we don't have to invalidate one person's point of view or one truth about the scenario in order for us all to come together and try to address it.
Yep. Thank you. Well, the one thing on the tail end of that, the common denominator in the Atlanta is that 6 Asian women were murdered by a single white male. So by law, it's listed as a hate crime against humanity. So it's either hate on gender, hate on race. It's still a hate crime. So the commonality is 6 people and 6 families are affected by the decision of one person, and it wasn't because he was having a bad day.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to be winding down, but I'm going to give Kim an opportunity to, I know you wanted to say something real quick before we close out.
I didn't really. I just wanted to say, great. I couldn't wait to hear what she had to say, because I find her very inspirational. I share her posts, she shares mine. We kind of go back and forth. She's just wonderful. So I just wanted to make sure she had a chance to speak. That was all.
Good. You know, and one of the things that Kevin Ray and we always talk about too with having these conversations is like, where do we go from here? Like, what do we do with all of this afterwards? And this within itself is we're doing, right? Because we're having the conversations, and I think we've all just grown a little bit and become a little bit more aware, right? And that's what we want to happen. But then from that, where do you want to go? Do you feel like you want to go a step further? Like Kim now, she feels she's probably more armed when she gets on social media and doing the work that she's doing. What do we want to do as far as taking that in our communities with Jeff and his young people and Stacy with hers, and what does that look like to continue to sort of do this, no matter how you look at allyship and alliances. When you step out the door, it's like, okay, this is humanity. It doesn't matter, race, creed, or whatever. um, I'm your ally just because you are my brother and my sister in humanity. That's just a given, right? And that's sort of like the mindset we want to have with each other, so that really at the end of the day, yeah, you and I might have some bad history. You might have done some things that, made me upset, but if you're hurt, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to help you. So that's the point of it. So the key things, like you said, was talking about, the common cause. We all in humanity, we all have a common cause. We all want to live healthy lives. We all want to be free. Shared values and visions, for the most part. I don't think that there's that many differences. I think there's a lot more commonality, and if we could try to find that in some way, I think, that would make a difference. So, um, Kevin and Ray, I don't know if Ray has something he wants to say before we close up, and then Kevin has a quick announcement.
No, I just really wanted to say thank you. It was so cool to be able to listen to everybody and hear people's perspectives. And I wish I was here earlier to be a part of the breakout group. I first and foremost just wanted to say thank you for everybody coming and being transparent and authentic in your stance, and having great trust that this
Yeah.
can be a space where we can have the conversation and agree or disagree and go away with hopefully something that we all learned, and or a connection that we made where we can continue to build on our learning and sharing in real time. We've got people active with young people, active in education, active, like, don't sleep on those elements as well, because you can continue to build your learning and action through those people here as well, myself and everybody else. So just thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And I hope you come back and stay with us and continue to, be a part of this continual learning space and activism space, because that's what this is. Having the dialogue is activism.
Yes.
And so just be mindful of that. So thank you.
All right, before I make my announcement, I'm going to add one more thing to this, because listening to Grace, and I've had this conversation, is that when we have spaces like this with each other that look like us, that think like us, and we go back to the spaces when it's just people that just are us, we have different conversations. There was an interview that was given to two KKK members that had left and had a change of heart, which is the reason why I asked, is it possible to outlove racism? And when they were asked, how do you change the narrative? And he says, when you're in a space and people are spewing hate from a place where there's no knowledge or support, he says, how you silence the room is speak out and say something different. Because he says there's a lot of people that's just going along with the crowd that are not part of the direct narrative, but don't know where they're going, and they just continue to follow. So with that said, I'm going to lighten it up a little bit so everyone will know. You guys are going to be the first to hear that RMK Productions will be RMK. It will be Storytime and Wine, the podcast. It'll be One Queen, Two Kings, the podcast. It'll be Talking Wit, WIT, Kevin and Son, the podcast. In the next 2 weeks, we will be launching our first podcast under RMK Productions. And then we have a big secret that's coming out. All I can say is 10 United. Thank you, everyone, for participating, lending your voice, sharing your love, sharing your heart. We have all grown. We have all become closer and attached. And again, Kevin, and I'm out.
Yeah, so you guys, please, if you're on Clubhouse, please go ahead, follow us, join our club, because we'll be doing weekly talks and breaking some of these other discussions down a little bit more. So you can always join us then, and then you will get an email letting you know when our first podcast drops, and continue to be a part of the conversation. So we appreciate you all for being here tonight. Go out and change the world. Good night.